The Phantom of the Opera, but made in 1970s. Hey, I'm Amy and welcome back to the Horror Checklist, a month-long extravaganza of fun, horror, scary movie type reviews. Today I'm going to be talking about Brian De Palma's Phantom of the Paradise, which is really just an amalgamation of a bunch of different horror movies plus Phantom of the Opera. So we get Phantom of the Opera with some other horror movies, some of which hadn't even really been made yet. So maybe they were inspired by this one. If you have not seen Phantom of the Paradise, I suggest you do, especially if you enjoy the Phantom of the Opera movie. I haven't seen a full Phantom of the Opera, but I know the gist of the Phantom of the Opera, and this is very, very much Phantom of the Opera. I am not gonna lie, it is Phantom of the Opera, but reimagined in the 1970s with music, modern music, and a bit of the Brian De Palma touch. Before I really touch on the big meat of what I want to talk about, which is the inspirations that this movie has or may have put onto other films, I want to talk a little bit about not the making of this film, but some of the bits and pieces of this film, like the main character of Winslow and him becoming more and more erratic in the way his actions and the camera really are pushed along. When he starts becoming more and more deranged, the camera's movements become more erratic, and then once he fully transforms into the Phantom, the camera completely hides him from view by either being his point of view or by hiding his face in the shadows or only showing bits of his body that aren't necessarily his face. So you don't get the full effect of what he looks like until the very end of the film, which I believe is something that is very prevalent in the Phantom of the Opera movies. Probably. Most likely. But the way the camera moves, especially as Winslow's point of view, is something that bothers me a little bit. Only for the reason that it's never really used again. There are a lot of different little beats or things in this film that feel out of place because they're not used again or in any sort of context. So when I say this, they don't really use Winslow's point of view as a camera movement again. If you want to make it a thing throughout your film, kind of like rule of thirds, to make it feel not so out of place. And then in the performance of Phoenix, his character, she looks at the camera straight down the barrel, breaking the fourth wall 2 or 3 times during her performance. Yes, it's a couple of times during her performance, but it's just this one scene, and no other character breaks the fourth wall like that throughout the rest of the film. It's very weird. I don't like it. One, because it breaks the fourth wall. It makes you feel like you're watching a film. Usually I'm okay with that. I don't mind it. But in this case, it just did not feel right. It felt so out of place and so weird. Is there a camera following her around, taping her audition? Is it playing on the fact that Swan has cameras set up around the club later on? I don't know. It just didn't sit well with me. Like the point of view shot or using the camera as Winslow's point of view when he's going to get the costumes works really well. I do wish that they had brought it in a little bit more, especially as Winslow is sneaking around. They also use this split screen. They use it twice. The first time it's really great. I wish that they had done it a little bit more to use it more like they used it the first time when Winslow is setting up the bomb. There's things in here that I liked, but they did not use them enough, and things that they put in there that really should not have been in there to begin with. And now to the big old chunk of this that I want to talk about, the horror inspirations that Phantom of the Paradise took. Of course, I've mentioned it multiple times, Phantom of the Opera is basically the story, but it's like more modernized for the 70s. There is a performance by one of the performers, Beef, that feels like a bit from Rocky Horror Picture Show, but Rocky Horror Picture Show came out the year after this. I don't know if it maybe was an inspiration for like Tim Curry's Dr. Frankenfurter plus the Rocky Horror character kind of combined, because he looks a lot like Dr. Frankenfurter, but moves and has some like, I don't know, I think it might have been like a, because now that I think about it, it really has nothing to do with Rocky Horror. It's mostly just Dr. Frankenfurter that he feels like, so I wonder if he took some inspiration for that, because he does look and act a lot like Tim Curry in that role. Plus, in the performance right before or leading up to Beef's portion of that performance, the set and the costuming for some of the performers is pulled from the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. The backdrop looks like it is basically pulled from the backdrop that is the climactic scene in the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Plus, the block shadow makeup on the faces of the performers has the feel of the painted on shadows from the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Plus a little bit of Frankenstein in there too when it comes to Beef's part of the performance. And finally, throughout the entire film, I was like, this feels like I'm watching Suspiria again. And it took me way too long to realize that the actress playing Phoenix was also playing Susie, or also played Susie in Suspiria a couple years before this, or the same year. Either way, it definitely had a Suspiria feel, not just because of the lead female character, but also the colors. They were very bright, very saturated, very in-your-face colors. In Suspiria, which is something that I love about that film, is the colors are very representative of a lot of different things. The colors are a big part of that film, and in this, color was a really integral part, especially in the backstage area of the club. The blood even looked very similar. They both have an overall supernatural tone to them. In the end, it doesn't feel like it at the beginning leading up to probably the third act of Phantom of the Paradise where you get this supernatural tone, but it's still there and you feel it a lot more in Suspiria because the entire film is wrapped around that supernatural point, but it's still very much there. And they both have very chaotic climactic sequences. But that is everything I have for Phantom of the Paradise. If you like the Phantom of the Opera and you like the 70s, you like some neon musical type stuff, I definitely recommend checking this out. If you do want to purchase it, there is an Amazon affiliate link in the description, and if you purchase it from that link, I'll get a small percentage back. That'll help make this channel even better. But let me know your favorite horror movie turned modern, I guess? I don't know. That's the question I could come up with today, but thank you guys so much for watching. I really truly do appreciate you, whoever you are. Let me know who you are in the comments down below, and let's be friends. If you enjoyed this, leave a like and subscribe if you're new, because I love talking like movies, TV shows, filmmaking, mystery, all that fun stuff, and I'll see you next time. Bye!